Hello everyone, welcome to Prim Legal. My name is Priscilla and I'm your host. And I want to first, before we go on for today's session, thank all my subscribers. I am so grateful and I'm happy that you are a subscriber. But if you're not yet a subscriber, please kindly click the button and join the train. So in today's session, we'll be talking about a very simple but not simple offense. And it's none other than burglary and housebreaking. Looks easy, just get what you can get, break into someone's house when they're not around and do whatever it is you want to do and come out sharp, fast, nobody knows you were ever in whatsoever. But people tend not to know that this offense, as easy as it might look or as easy as it may sound, carries a weighty punishment attached to it. And so that's what we discuss in this session: burglary and housebreaking. The difference between both of them, they sound very similar. Actually, they are similar, but they have a very distinct difference. And also, we'll be talking about both offenses in two different regions of Nigeria, and that is the southern region and the northern region. Now, before we go on, we need to understand that the criminal code is a criminal law in charge of southern Nigerian states, while the penal code rather, is a criminal law in charge of northern Nigerian states. Just a little bit of differences, but virtually it's actually the same thing. So by burglary and housebreaking, under section 410 of the criminal code, which is in charge of southern Nigerian states, it actually defines housebreaking, it defines burglary, and section 411 goes ahead to talk about the punishment attached to this offense. But however, under the penal code, what you have is section 352. But like I said, they're quite similar, but it's important that you know that they are different, and actually both laws gave two different punishments to these offenses. Now we're going to start first and foremost with the criminal code. Now section 410 defines criminal code as simple: when someone breaks into a house and enters into that house with the intent to commit felony. Now the idea is actually very simple. When you enter into a house, of course definitely without permission whatsoever, and your intention was to commit felony. And now the intent is very important, because in law the intention of the suspect, the intention of the accused is very important to the prosecuting team. Now, entering the house to commit felony can be entering the house to steal, which is most likely the case whenever it comes to housebreaking. It's always the suspect wanting to take one or two things from the house and run out without being spotted or being noticed. But however, there are other felonies, okay? So it can be stealing, it can be arson, which is to set the house on fire, it can be kidnapping, it can be just anything that's, normally is a crime, and it's a crime that has attached to it a variant fine. So what the criminal code is saying is actually simple: as far as you break into the house, you have committed housebreaking. Now, this is it for the criminal code. You're going to ask yourself, what if the house was actually left open? We have situations like that. There is a burglary or housebreaking situation, and the defense of the defendant is that I didn't break into the house, it was open, or there is no evidence of breaking in. Evidence of breaking is probably a broken window, or the doorknob is no longer in place and all that. The law is still clear on that. Look, if you enter into their premises, whether the door was left open or whether that path you pass through into the building is naturally always open, maybe a chimney, but I doubt we have chimneys in Nigeria anyway. But any opening, and you use that opening to gain access into the house, and then when you gain access into the house, you went into the house with the intention of committing felony, that still is housebreaking or burglary, whichever the case may be. Now you will notice that I said housebreaking or burglary. Now, this is why I said so. And when you come to section 411 of the Criminal Code, it was pretty straightforward. Now, look, if you commit housebreaking, it's 14 years imprisonment. However, if you commit burglary, it's life imprisonment. Now, that makes us want to ask, what's the difference? Now, the difference is clear. The difference is the time. Now, one is committed during the day, the other is committed at night. Now, during the day is 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. So you are said to have committed housebreaking if you break into someone's house, whatever it is you use, whether it is a spare key or not really a spare key, but permit me to say a duplicate key or a plier, whatsoever. Once you enter that house to commit felony, to have committed housebreaking. If it happened between 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., that's so yes. The worst that can happen to that kind of person, conviction, is 14 years imprisonment. However, if it happened at night, which is 6:30 p.m. to 6:30 a.m., it's the same thing. But the problem is it now becomes burglary, and that is life imprisonment by virtue of section 411 of the Criminal Code. Now, however, the Criminal Code doesn't really say anything about burglary. And when I mean burglary the way the Criminal Code had spoken about it. Because if you go to section 352, permit me to there, and it's simple. It said, whosoever commits house trespass in order to commit any offense punishable with imprisonment shall be with imprisonment for a term which will not exceed 7 years. So you see, that's the difference between the Penal Code and the Criminal Code. Term imprisonment. Why the Criminal Code is saying 14 years or life imprisonment depending on the time, the Penal Code is saying, look, it's 7 years imprisonment. So what I'm trying to tell you now is that the same offense, two different sides of Nigeria, it's simple, it's clear. So peradventure, you move over to Nasarawa and you're caught, not you, sorry. Peradventure, someone moves to Nasarawa and he or she is caught housebreaking, whether in the day or at night, 7 years. Now that same person or someone else move all over to Edo State and commit the same offense, and it will not be 7 years imprisonment. It will either be 14 years imprisonment or life imprisonment, depending on the time. So you see, it's all a matter of where, when, and where you actually committed the offense. So quite simple as that. So I really hope and wish that this short session that we've actually had, discourages anyone from getting involved in breaking into someone's house to either steal or do anything. It's not something that you want to. It's not something that you want to be caught doing. It's not something that you should be nowhere near anything like that. So what I'm trying to say is that everyone should stay away from anything that sounds like housebreaking or burglary. And it's quite simple because this offense, as easy as it looks, the gravity attached to it is quite serious, it's quite great. And I see a lot of people saying things like, a criminal or someone could commit an offense and sentenced to life imprisonment, whereas a politician steal our money and you get to be sentenced to either maybe 2 years imprisonment or a fine of. See, look, if the Criminal Code doesn't prescribe fine for that particular offense, there's nothing the judge can do. If it ever says, you're sentenced to 14 years imprisonment or with an option of fine, the truth of the matter is that the judge has discretion to actually either give a fine or not. So this is not the time to be arguing. The punishment is the law is probably until it's changed, but there's no time to be arguing or making such arguments. The best option you have right now is stay away from crime or anything that looks like it. So yeah, till I come your way in the session, my one and only advice is stay away from crime or anything that looks like it. Thank you very much. Have a great day ahead.